In this video, you will see what is the top 10 must-have units in Anime Vanguards Update 1. Every units in this video are all obtainable and not from trading. I do want to know, what do you think is the best unit in Anime Vanguards 1? Remember to subscribe and like. And with that being said, in no particular order, the first must-have unit is Toji Sorcerer. Toji is one of the newest obtainable exclusive unit you can get in this new Anime Vanguards Update 1, and it became one of the best damage per second unit with this overpowered passive. Toji Sorcerer stats a max upgrade and max LR, 20,580 damage with this SPA at 6.5 seconds, making his damage per second at 3,166.15, which is insanely good, especially with his insanely strong stats. Toji Sorcerer first passes Heavenly Body. His damage will increase by 50% when no buffs are active on this character. The second passive, Challenging Infinity, his range increases by 20% and his attacks remove shields entirely and ignore damage reduction, with this damage increasing up to 30% until an enemy is killed after removing shields. His last passive, Curse Inventory, Toji gains an ability Curse. Using Curse Inventory will swap between Chain Blitz and Domain Breaker. Domain Breaker increases 25% range and increases boss damage, while Chain Blitz increases 10% damage. So I highly recommend to use Chain Blitz when focusing on bosses. How to get Toji Sorcerer is by doing the worm quest you can get from defeating exits of the Jujutsu Kaisen story mode, and completing the quest will let you sacrifice one evolved unit from Jujutsu Kaisen update, and you'll be able to obtain Toji and have a chance to get a shiny version. Good luck to everyone who is trying to get him shiny. Okay, next one is Chayen Blade Dancer. Chayen is one of the best mythical unit, especially with their insane passive she have and crit damage. Chayen stats a max upgrade and max LR, 57,020 damage with her SPA at 6.3 seconds, making her damage per second at 907.93, which may seem low, but in reality she has an insane crit rate and crit damage. Chayen's Blade Dancer's first passive will have her crit rate increase by 20%, crit damage by 50%. Her crit rate will increase by 15% when attacking a boss. Wow! Her second passive, she will be immune to any debuff on her and inflicts an extra instance of damage after performing a dodge that will deal 65% of her damage. Alright, next one is Rengoku Purgatory. Rengoku is still one of the best damage per second unit with his insane passive and burn in this new Anime Vanguards Update Uno. Rengoku Purgatory stats a max upgrade and max LR, 46,150 damage with his SPA at 5.8 seconds, making his damage per second at 7,856.89, which is extremely strong. Rengoku Purgatory first passive, Flame Breathing, is his attacks inflicts burn damage equal to 30% of his damage. Rengoku's second passive, Unwavering Focus, increases his damage by 5% on consecutive attacks done to the same enemy up to 20%. Rengoku's third passive, Purgatory Unleash, increases burn damage equal to 60% of damage enemies hit by attacks are inflicted with Purgatory Flames, making them receive 40% more burn damage, which pairing other flame units with Rengoku Purgatory is going to be insanely strong. How to get Rengoku Purgatory is by defeating the new raid Act 4 Web Demon, where there is a 1% chance on obtaining Rengoku, and I highly recommend to bring Blossom in your team when doing Act 4 with her insane cleanse. Okay, next one is Sasuke Storm. Sasuke is one of the best mythical units since he will be able to stun enemies on placement, which will be great for early defending in this new Anime Vanguards Update 1. Sasuke Storm stats a max upgrade and max LR, 9,050 damage with his SPA at 5.9 seconds, making his damage per second at 1,533.89. Sasuke Storm's first passive is, with each consecutive attack on the same enemy, his damage will increase by 2%, and his second passive will be able to stun enemies and he will deal 50% more damage to stunned enemies. Oh my gosh. Alright, next in is Choso Blood Curse. Choso is one of the newest obtainable mythical unit you can get, and he became insanely strong with his passive and full AoE at later upgrades in this new anime Vanguards update 1. Choso Blood Curse stats a max upgrade and max FLR, 11,580 damage with his SPA at 6.5 seconds, making his damage per second at 1,781.53, which isn't too bad, especially he does bleed, which will cancel out regeneration enemies and will become full AoE at later upgrades. Choso Blood Curse's first passive, Blood Manipulation, attacks will inflict bleed equal to 35% of this unit's damage. His second passive, Flowing Blood, with each attack performed, damage dealt 5% more on a bleeding enemy up to 50%. Okay, next one is Obito Awakened. Obito is one of the best mythical unit, especially he will be able to deal burn damage at later upgrades. Obito Awakened stats a max upgrade and max FLR, 9,080 damage with his SPA at 4.3 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,111.62, which is one of the best damage per second, and he'll be able to deal burn damage, which is extremely meta. Obito Awakened's first passive is his SPA lessens 3% per wave down to 12%, and his second passive, his attacks will inflict burn equal to 30% of Obito's damage. Alright, next one is Vegeta Super Awakened. Vegeta is one of the best mythical unit, especially with his multi-hit on placement, which will be great against shield enemies. Vegeta Super Awakened stats a max upgrade and max FLR, 8,820 damage with his SPA at 4.4 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,004.54, which is extremely good, especially he is a line AoE. Vegeta's first passive is, if only the units in range include the name Vegeta, his SPA will lessen by 20%. His second passive will increase his damage by 100% when hitting one enemy. Okay, next one is Gojo Infinity. Gojo is one of the newest obtainable secrets you can get, and he became the best unit in this whole entire game with his overpowered passive and ability at later upgrades in this new anime Vanguards update 1. Gojo Infinity stats a max upgrade and max FLR, 40,050 damage with his SPA at 9.8 seconds, making his damage per second at 4,086.73, which is insanely strong, especially he becomes a fully AoE unit at later upgrades with his overpowered passives, guys. Gojo's first passive, Strongest Sorcerer, he will gain 20% damage and lessens his SPA by 10%. His second passive, Limitless, he is immune to any status ailments, which is insanely strong. Not only that, his damage will increase by 0.1% with each wave pass. Wow. His third passive, Unlimited Expansion, he will gain the ability Void. His SPA will be reduced by 2% for each kill during Void down to 10%, and when Void is activated, Gojo will gain 50% more damage and all enemies in range are frozen for 10 seconds, which is insanely overpowered for leaderboard runs, so I highly recommend to get this unit. How to evolve Gojo is from the Infinite and get fingers from Sukuna in the last Infinite, and he is a RNG boss. Then once you have 20 fingers, you can transfer those 20 fingers for 2 eyes, which you'll be needing to evolve your Gojo. YPA. Alright, next one is Alucard Vampire King. Alucard is still the rarest secret unit, and he became one of the strongest secrets with his insane passive and ability at later upgrades. Alucard Vampire King stats a max upgrade and max FLR, 9,890 damage with his SPA at 4.5 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,220, which is insanely good, especially he will become a full AoE. At later upgrades, you will also get a new ability Restraint level 0. When activated, summoning ghouls. While ghouls are present on the map, Alucard's SPA decreases by 10% until they are dead. Each time a ghoul dies, Alucard's damage is increased by 1% up to 35%. How to get Alucard is by summoning on the banner, and there is a 1 out of 25,000 chance of getting him, so good luck to everyone who is summoning for Alucard. Okay, next one is Jin-Woo Monarch. Jin-Woo is one of the best mythical, especially with his insanely good ability he gets at later upgrades and multi-hit on placement, which will be great against shield enemies in this new anime Vanguards update 1. Jin-Woo Monarch stats a max upgrade and max FLR, 13,450 damage with his SPA at 5.6 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,401.78, which is extremely good, especially with his ability that he gets. Jin-Woo Monarch's first passive is, he will gain 0.1% damage per takedown up to 40%. With his second passive, killing enemies adds them to his shadow army up to 40 shadows, and when activating Arise, he will summon 15 shadows and summons 5 shadow knights. Finally, his last passive, each time a shadow defeats an enemy, his damage will increase by 2.5%, maxing at 25%. Units in range that includes the name Igris also receive the damage increase. Alright, next one is Jogo Volcanic. Jogo is one of the newest obtainable mythical unit you can get in this new anime Vanguards update 1, and he became one of the best units to have, especially with his insane passives and ability at later upgrades. Jogo's Volcanic stats are max upgrade and max level are 17,370 damage with his SPA at 6.7 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,592.53, which is insanely strong, especially with his insane passives and ability. Jogo's Volcanic's first passive, Rising Flames. His attack will inflict burn equal to 30% of this unit's damage, with his damage increasing by 0.4% with each kill up to 20%. His second passive, Iron Kofik, will gain the ability Iron Kofik. When activated, damage dealt 50% when hitting burning enemies and attacks all enemies in range while Iron Coffin is active, which is insanely strong, especially with his huge range. One last thing, Jogo Volcanic's ability is world cooldown, so think wisely how you use his ability. Okay, next one is Tengen Flashiness. Tengen is still one of the best DPS with this insane full AoE and passive in this new anime Vanguards update 1. Tengen Flashiness stats are max upgrade and max level are 16,880 damage with his SPA at 7.4 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,281.08. Tengen Flashiness' first passive is God of Flashiness, increases his damage and range by 10%, increased dodge chance by 3% with each attack performed up to 60%. Tengen's second passive, his damage will increase 10% with each consecutive attack on the same enemy up to 30%, with his SPA reducing by 2% with each attack performed down to 30%, which is insanely strong, so I highly recommend to get Tengen, especially he becomes full AoE at later upgrades. Alright, next one is Igris Elite Knight. Igris is still one of the best secret, especially he will become a full AoE unit at later upgrades with his overpowered passives. Igris Elite Knight stats are max upgrade and max level are 16,930 damage with his SPA at 5.3 seconds, making his damage per second at 3,194.33, which is extremely strong, especially he will become a full AoE. Igris' first passive, he will deal plus 25% damage dealing against a boss. His second passive, he will gain 30% damage, lessens his SPA by 10%, and immune to stun on placement. His last passive buffs his damage by 20% and range by 10% for 100 seconds after a shadow enters Igris' range. How to get Igris Elite Knight is by defeating the Double Dungeon Disaster Legend stage, and he is a 0.75% drop rate, so good luck to everyone who is grinding for Igris. Okay, next one is Julius Explosion. Julius is one of the newest Battle Pass unit you can obtain in this new anime Vanguards update 1, and she became one of the best support, especially with her freeze. Julius Explosion stats at max upgrade and level 47 are 23,700 damage with her SPA at 8 seconds, making her damage per second at 2,962.5, which is insanely strong for a support unit. Julius Explosion's first passive is Mirrored Frost. When she attacks, she will be able to freeze enemies. Her SPA will lower by 1% each time an enemy is frozen, capping at 10%. Her second passive, Chilling Contempt, her damage will increase by 7% with each attack up to 56%, and her range increases by 7% per wave up to 35%, which is insanely overpowered. Finally, the last unit is Todo Unleash. Todo is one of the newest unit and he became an insanely good support with his unique ability at later upgrades in this new anime Vanguards update 1. Todo unleashed stats, a max upgrade and max of LR, 14,810 damage with his SPA at 6.5 seconds, making his damage per second at 2,278.46, which is insanely strong, especially at later upgrades. Todo Unleashed will gain an ability Boogie. When activated, the ability will allow you to swap places with another unit that is placed in this unit's range, which is an overpower ability, especially you don't have to waste any more money when replacing. Oh my gosh. His first passive, Near Death Delusion, his damage will increase by 12% with each attack received up to 36%. When using Boogie, his SPA will lessen by 4% down to 16% permanently. Wow. That was everything for this video on the top 10 must-have units in Anime Vanguards Update 1. I hope this video helped you in some sort of way. Remember to subscribe and like, and I will see you in my next one. Bye bye.